bit of a haul. 4 days. 4 days in the water this time. A new friend of mine drove all the way from Edmonton, Canada, to come fishing with us for 1 day. What an effort. A real, true, kind, very intelligent man. And came out, I don't know how many fish we hooked into. I honestly lost count. It was getting a little ridiculous how many were not sticking on the hooks, but it was a lot of fun, had a lot of great conversations, and he went home with a pile of fish anyway, so that's good. And a quick note to you, Michael, who was our new friend and guest. We forgot to show you the video that's on my phone. That kind of sucks. But anyway, what day is it today? I believe this is Wednesday by the time you see this. And the past 4 videos I've been on the water while you're listening to them. They're all pre-made. So this is fresh off the slate. I don't even know what I was talking about those last times. I do, but I don't remember everything, obviously. But while I'm here, I mean, like I've always said before, if you want to become aware of the realities, the honest truth of what's going on in our natural world, I have expressed my amazement numerous times at how I just cannot believe how many people, once they get slapped in this face with this reality, stay uber focused on this topic only and just sit there going like this. No matter which direction it goes, they stay in that circle, circumnavigating the Sasquatch topic, where this leads to much, much more. There's no way it doesn't. The number one thing it leads to is the fact that we are all being fiercely, fiercely manipulated and lied to about everything. It's unfortunate I got to be the messenger for that, but it's true. Strike me down dead if I'm wrong. I would stake my life on it as being absolute fact. Anyway, quick note I want to share with all of you before we get going on sharing multiple experiences from people who I need to help get heard, so that hopefully if they have had their passions destroyed, I can help them bring it back, and so can you. That's a major priority of mine. And as well to enlighten people about the shit show that's been going on around this topic for a long time. How the main gatekeepers of knowledge and the so-called community have effectively kept all of the majority of you going in circles that lead nowhere. Absolutely intentionally. There is no way anyone could even have a grade 5 education or a PhD and still try to make you all believe that this one truth is directly related to a monkey or a gorilla that just hasn't been acknowledged. They are lying through their tooths. They're lying through their car salesman smiles at you directly. They do not want you to know the truth, and they will not acknowledge the truth at all costs. And if you report to them the truth of what you saw or witnessed, they're going to do whatever they can to keep that suppressed and quiet. Obviously, right? I got some more vulgar names that I could easily spill out of my mouth while referring to those people, but I won't. I don't have to, as long as I have subtly but directly exposed them and what they have done, and expose them to the people, the truth, right? The truth of these pieces of shit. But anyways, in the meantime, I have got to be the messenger of other news, all right? Now, if you're following what's going on the planet, you're following what's going on with the farmers, the assault on our food sources, which that directly is, and I have to make mention of this. If I don't, I'm an irresponsible, ignorant prick if I don't share this, all right? This is happening in Canada, and now, unless you do not seek out knowledge for yourself, if you're not staying on top of global affairs yourself, which you should be. Why? Because you live here. That's why. You live here, you breathe here, you eat here, and your children are trying to be raised here in a good way. Farmers are being absolutely annihilated around the globe, starting just a little while ago. It's really going to ramp up. It's not any kind of a conspiracy theory, it's fact, all right? Now listen to this. Shared from the Northern Farm Training Institute, Hay River, Northwest Territories, Canada. It turns out we're not allowed to sell our produce to our community on our own farm. Last Saturday, our farm stand on our own property was shut down by the government. The NWT government has made the selling of food from farmers directly to the people illegal now in the Northwest Territories. The public is only allowed to buy food from the producers who have government permission through a government permitting program. All right, I'll just keep that, I'll cut that off there. It's a very nasty absolute reality, one that every single one of you should take note of. And I do know the person who originally posted this, and I know another person, a friend of mine, who just posted this comment. Now listen to this. And this is a friend of mine who's a certified butcher, sells meat, pork, chickens. I was talking to one of the pig bosses on one of the Hutterite colonies this spring. He told me he was informed by Agriculture Canada to not sell pigs to the public anymore. He says, I have sows now, and it's time to stand up, folks. It's good to know. My friend's got sows. He made the purchase, and he's been selling pork and bacon and great food products to the community, healthy food for a long time. That's direct word, direct knowledge that every one of you should be aware of. Pissed off. If you're not pissed off right now, what the hell's wrong with you? What's it going to take? It's absolutely amazing what's going on. It's more amazing to me still at how many people, and especially people that I know personally, just don't give a shit. They just don't give a shit. You know, I posted up some facts about, the old injection the other day on social media, and I passed on a post from somebody who's in the know, a nurse, and a lot of people, all they had to say was, they can't even spell vaccine. What's wrong with them? That's all I took out of it. Obviously, they didn't understand how algorithms work and how a lot of people have to keep the misspelling of certain keywords misspelled so that they don't get their post taken down. But the amount of replies that I did read on that particular post on social media of people saying, quote, I got vaccinated and I'm fine. That reply only directly tells me I don't give a shit about anybody else. I'm okay. Okay, man, just so you know, the U.S. Senate came out the other day and said, quote, if we have 50 deaths from a new vaccination, we pull the product off the shelf. We now have absolute proof of over 44,000 vaccination-caused deaths in the U.S. today. Why is it still on the shelf? All right, that's a quote from a U.S. Senator. You can look it up and see it anytime you want. So what I'm saying to all of the people out there who have accepted the forced injection, if you're healthy, you're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones. But just so you know, there is literally tens of thousands of your neighbors, your friends, your country people who aren't so lucky, and they are dead or have lifelong disabilities because of the deal, the card shot that they got. Now, if that does not make any concern to you whatsoever, you're an absolute piece of shit. You're just a selfish, numb, zero contributor to any kind of community, good community on the face of this planet. That's my message to you. So, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? For me, I follow a lot of items that go on this planet today. I have for a long time. I don't preach it. I'm usually at the frame of mind where I believe that the intelligent community out there doesn't need to be encouraged. Right? I'm also sadly at the point of the game where I think, it's like I say about liking, subscribing, sharing this channel when it comes to the Sasquatch topic and what's really going on in our natural world. I feel it just does not make sense to share this shit. Because the intelligent people, the people that are going to make a difference, the independent thinking people who can make a difference and contribute in a positive way, they're already here. They already know about this place. They're already well informed and they're very aware. You can't just go take anybody off the street, slap them in the face with a topic like this and expect them to jump on board and make a difference, right? Easily proven with our global affairs today, right? Man, am I babbling right now? I've got a lot. I have a lot on my mind, a lot to chew on all the time, and I am honestly, if I go with my gut instincts, my guts are telling me that somehow I have to make a difference. Somehow I have to share knowledge. I have to encourage people to seek it out and make a difference and to give a shit. And I'm not quite sure how I should do that next. And what I have done personally is I have contacted a good handful of the senior intelligent people I've met through doing this, because I know they know what's going on. And I know they've been around a hell of a lot longer than I have been around. And I know they have a lot more knowledge and wisdom, and I really, really need it. So I am reaching out to those. I have reached out via email to my senior intelligent people that I respect, and I'm looking for advice from them on what to do, right? We have to figure out what to do to stop this. I mean, the items that are going down, the moves that have been going down as of late are way past the line in the sand, as far as I'm concerned. It's just past the line in the sand. And people that really truly care have to do something, okay? What I'm saying is you're going to have to fight. Eventually you are going to have to fight, or somebody's going to have to fight for you. And that is a fact. I am 110% convinced of that fact. There's no way out of it. Or you just do what you're told and get in line, like you have been. All right? So, somebody knows of someone out there of great intelligence and courage and motivation who I do not know about yet. Please, please, please send their name my way. Send their contact my way, their group's contact my way somehow on a secure email, whatever you got, send it my way. Because my line, the line in my sandbox has been crossed. That's all there is to it. The line in the sand has been crossed. And it's time that the good, strong people do something. It is. It is. Now, that's about as calm and straightforward a message I can deliver right now without being a little more passionate and not giving a shit what comes out of my mouth. State. Look, I can't even open up my damn phone. Now, what do we have with people? Okay, well, actually, here's one. This is a fresh one. Excuse me, this reminds me of how I was wondering what's going on with people who need to get across the border, especially if they wanted to come fishing with me or anybody else, or do anything else when you cross the border. It says, "Dear Steve, no name please. This is for you and all those who are wondering about trying to cross the border." In reference to the misinformation being spread about crossing the U.S.-Canadian border, a quick check with the Homeland Security website will tell you that only U.S. citizens can enter the U.S. without vax proof or testing. All foreign travelers must show proof of vax, including Canadians. Land crossings are not as stringent, and a lot of the officers manning the smaller crossings are just asking if you're vaxxed, but not looking for a proof document, so you might get lucky lying. But if you're a Canadian trying to cross into the States, you're required by law to show vax proof. That's the scoop. Quick note on that: if you tell them you are vaxxed, but don't say what for, you won't be lying. Take note of that one. Coming back in is another story. All persons entering Canada must have a phone downloaded ArriveCan app to enter. You must fill it out with your passport info and vax history. If you haven't got the shots at all, you must take 3 tests before your trip, at the border and after the quarantine, and mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks at an approved quarantine facility. Weird, isn't it? When all you have to do is go get one of those government-created tests that tells you if you're positive or negative in 15 minutes. Right? That's fact. You can get a test. You can get a test. It takes 15 minutes. And no, I do not condone putting anything in your mouth or your nose from that package. I would absolutely push to get your own Q-tips from a fresh box and do it with that. All right? Do it that way. Yeah, so you can't go take a quick 15-minute test. If they really want to make your life miserable, they can actually move you into a government quarantine center and not let you out until you test negative. Even though it's a 15-minute test you cannot put up in a package, like a chocolate bar. But you will forever be on the track and trace database, which is your passport now. Lovely. If you're thinking about freely moving across the line, commonly guarded as the border, you might consider using a sea-going craft and avoiding the hassles of complying with the whims of border and health officials. You must determine your own risk in such an endeavor. You may read this on the channel, as there is a lot of confusion due to confusing announcements by both governments, so this might help. Another note, Canada has recently declared that there is now no such thing as fully vaccinated, due to a new requirement of boosters every 9 months. So the new term on your app will be up to date. This is not freedom by any stretch of the imagination. Quote, I am a pureblood, so must remain nameless for now. Okay, brother. Thanks for the email. Thanks for answering my public question. And if a pure blood is the term we need to use, about as pure as it gets right here, for sure. I'm not ashamed of it. Teach their own. To each their own. You can do whatever you want. I don't give a shit. You can go get vaccinated 50 million times. I will still crack a beer with you, crack the same jokes with you, look you in the eye, treat you with respect, have you on my boat or in my home. I don't care. But if you're one of the, yeah, you know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say? You know, one question you can ask yourself right now, I don't know what side of the camp the majority of the people, I think the pretty confident majority of the people on this channel are very intelligent, very independent, and don't get pushed around. But there's a chance there might be that small handful of people here that claim that no one could ever motivate them to annihilate their own family over an injection, right? What would it take? What would it take, do you think, for one of you to turn on your family members? Them not getting a stupid needle in their arm, even though they can prove to you they're healthy? Right? If that's stupid. Is somebody out there that stupid that you are not going to speak to a family member or a friend ever again because they didn't get that thing jammed in their arm, even though they can easily prove to you that they are still the healthy, same person that you grew to love and be friends with all your life? Let that sink in a little bit if you're one of those weak pussies. Absolute embarrassments to the human race if you did take part in that at any time in the past couple of years. Absolute shame on you. Absolute. Nice. Bite my lip. Bite my lip. Bite my lip. But I'll tell you what, you guys. Just the other day I had a look on my statistics the other day out of curiosity. And currently, I've had the most views since I have been speaking publicly in a way. And I had a combined, my two How to Hunt channels on YouTube alone, there was 8.5 million views in the last 28 days. And rising. So, there you go. There's a few sets of ears out there that need to hear some shit now and then, right? Anyway, as usual, I don't script what I'm about to say. It just sort of falls out of my mouth and spits at the camera. Do it the way you will or leave it. If you feel the need that you need me to be quiet, you better come and find me in person and we'll discuss that personally. All right? I gotta bite my lip. If you think that you want me to stop talking, you and I have a very, very serious problem. We need to deal with it personally, one-on-one, in private. Now, before I start absolutely losing my shit, let's get some very important voices heard, all right? There's some very important experiences to share publicly here that may affect you, may not affect you, or may help you. But more importantly, this will possibly help the people who are emailing in their experiences so I can help them and you can help them salvage what's left of their passion for the real, true world out there. Hi Steve, use my name, Nancy M. I'm 75 years old, female, and always believed in Sasquatch. My husband and I were traveling on a dirt road off Highway number 6, about 5 kilometers, south of Lundar, Manitoba. I believe this occurred in the spring of 2018. The road curved north at the lake shore, but just before we got to the curve, my husband came to an abrupt stop. There were about 10 head of cattle grazing on the south side of the road beside us, but they were just standing still, not making a sound. My husband saw what looked like a lump of hay in the middle of the road ahead of us, about 100 feet, but it looked out of place. He slowly moved the truck up a little closer and came to a stop again. He then asked me if I see what he sees. I immediately said yes. To me, it looked like a Neanderthal-like creature sitting on his haunches in the middle of the road. It was covered in fairly long hair, which was blowing in the wind, the color of dried hay, sandy brown. It began to stand up and appeared to be about 8 to 9 feet tall, with very long arms and legs a bit shorter, but heavily muscled, especially at the thighs. As it turned to look at us, I could sense it was a young one, and I actually began to feel fear. But the fear was not from me. Don't ask me how I knew this. But the fear was coming from that creature. I sensed that it was lost and wanted to find its way home. It took two steps to the south of us, across the ditch, and just disappeared. We drove up to where it had been sitting, but could not find any tracks or any sign that it had been there at all. We stopped in at a friend's place along the way, and when we told him what we had seen, he told us to keep the information to ourselves. Why? Why would you caution anybody to do that? Especially today. We don't do that anymore. We don't hide. We're not scared. We do not hide the truth about anything anymore, especially here. That's what we say to those people who say, don't say shit. He proceeded to tell us that 2 years before, a farmer shot one of those things and he took his tractor and buried it somewhere on his property. Now, 2 days later, the military was at his door and wanted to know if he saw any type of strange bears around. The man denied he knew anything and told him they were trespassing and leave his property. My husband died in 2019, but before he passed, we often talked to each other about our experience. I have told some friends about my experience and was told by one person that I'm an empath that could feel the fear in the young Sasquatch. I have no idea if this is the case or not, but I do know I did not fear for my life at all when I saw it. Thank you for sharing my story. Now, I either read this myself or I read it previously. If I read it previously, oops. But thank you so much for saying that in. And again, if you did feel like messaging me more information on this one day about exactly who this farmer, if he's still alive, and whether or not he still has that property where this thing's buried, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? For obvious reasons. Now, why would that not be marked as read if I had already read it? I don't like that, darn it. Well, let's throw the dice on this one. Thank you, part 2 is the title of this email. Hi, Steve. I wrote previously, but I didn't relate fully the details of my encounter in Roosevelt, Arizona, as I was trying to keep it short. This one isn't. The Roosevelt account was at the Young Road Junction. You did read it, but several people asked in the comments for more from my trooper friend. They moved away the same month as I did, before anyone gets mouthing about people moving away, not telling the new tenants that is not true. I told everyone I knew what I knew. Stories shared by the campfire. I was in an RV park, so my trailer came with me. Back to my friends. I want to speak to them in person, and maybe they'll write and share knowledge themselves. They will be visiting me soon. In addition to my account, about 2 weeks later, I was once again returning from town after the grocery run. My car windows were open, and my dog, only an 8-month-old pup, was sound asleep in the seat beside me. Out of nowhere, he started to bark and jump to attention. He scared me so much, I thought he was going to bite me. He started working his nose in between grumbling. Hair stood up, sniffing the air. I looked in the mirror and realized I had just passed Young Road. 1 year previous, I had taken my truck and my senior dog up Young Road with the intention of tent camping and exploring. After I left the desert floor and I was in the pines, I started looking for a camp spot. One camp was at Zeke, and I settled down. After about 15 minutes, I felt my hair raise. Oh, Zeke, a coonhound, was trying to crawl under my camp chair. That's when I noticed the birds quit, and so had the squirrels. My hand went to my gun. I stood and I stared to scan for a mountain lion, as they are quite, period. With Zeke in my heels, literally, a rock the size of an old cannonball hit the ground about a foot to my left from behind. It pivoted in time to see, I pivoted in time to see another rock twice the size of my head land next to my truck and about 10 feet in front of me. Now I was mad at whatever kids were doing this, despite it was a weekday, and I hadn't seen anyone else all the way up. I ran across the road, up the 10-foot embankment from where the rock came. When I reached the top, I realized the other side was steeper and sandy. I could see over the top of the pine forest. I knew of no one that would climb some 40 to 60 feet up a sandy slope to throw those boulders at me. I tried to reason that the rocks had just rolled down the hill. As I was thinking that, something popped in my mind and said, "No, leave." I threw everything in my truck, not broken down. Then I tried to find Zeke, and he was under the truck. When I got to the bottom of the mountain, I pulled off the road to secure my stuff, get a beer to try to stop shaking, and try to make sense of what happened with my nervous, silent hound. I hope anyone going to the area hears this share. No one told me. Rim County, Arizona. Dolly Price. Dolly, absolute appreciate you wrote back. I can't completely recall your original email for obvious reasons. I think that's such a good thing you did, emailing in to share with people, because nobody told you. That's the whole point of the game here, right? That's one of the main points of the game here. Oh my God, I got shit all over the place. Saddle's in the way. Square up my table here. There we go. Now, anybody who's familiar with that zone, there you go. There's some first-hand knowledge to you from one member of the people, which is the strongest, most important group on the face of the planet. The people. Mystery visitor in Sedona, Arizona. Greetings, Steve. You recently read my stories about being visited by a savvy in the middle of the night when I was 4 and living in Carmel Valley, California, as well as my 2021 experience with a possible dog man being on my roof. We were visiting my in-laws in Sedona, Arizona in '88. Upon arriving, we took our 6-month-old son on a hike around the base of the Red Rocks. I simultaneously saw a fresh, big cat print out at a creek and felt alarms going off in my head. My husband had the choice of leaving with us or walking back to his parents' house. Late that night, I was awake and watching old movies. My bed was directly under a large, high open window that slid horizontally. The baby and my husband were sound asleep, and our dog was patrolling the house before crashing on the floor. I noted a horrible smell wafting in from outside. It smelled like body odor and roadkill, and I immediately got my attention. I turned off the TV to fully darken the room. I heard a deep sniffing and huffing at the window. There was the unmistakable sound of the window screen stressing against something pushing against it. I tried to wake my husband to no avail. The dog was shivering and was trying to wedge herself under the bed. I was terrified, thinking it might be a mountain lion. I was afraid to slide the window closed as I couldn't see out of the window due to my height. I went out to the great room and cut on the floodlights that illuminated the yard. I peeked through the shutters but couldn't see the outside of the window because of the fireplace chimney. I returned to the bedroom, noting the smell was gone. I closed and locked the window and waited till morning. The next morning, I found my father-in-law removing the screen to our window. The nylon mesh looked stretched out, and there was an area where the red dust was displaced. Looked like a huge handprint. There's also a sparkling area where it looked like something had licked the screen and the saliva dried. Definitely. Regards, Roxanne Andrew. Nope, doesn't sound like a frickin' mountain lion to me, Roxanne. Creepier and shit. And thanks for that share. And keep us posted if you come across, you know the line. You come across knowledge you feel we need, get it to us, okay? Get it to us at all costs. What's this one? Here's another one. Oh, quick share. I forgot. Yesterday, day before. Yeah, yesterday I fished with Michael. Day before, we took my inflatable down the coast to a little secluded place. First time I was there was 25 years ago. Shot a huge bear in there with a guy. And it's a little bit of a freshwater estuary, and it is jam loaded with clams, little butter clams, you know, those yummy little ones you get in a pot in the restaurant with a little bit of wine and cream sauce in there, butter sauce, whatever. And there's shit piles of oysters, so we decided to go in there and get some. So we're gonna make some clam chowder and as well do the half shell oysters in the barbecue with delicious little things and cheese on top. And nobody goes in there. Nobody. And if anybody does go in there, you can see the sign easy. But anyway, we went in there. I thought I'd just drop this on you guys for the hell of it. Not that it makes any kind of a difference, and I don't look for this shit, but like I said in the past, when I do come across shit, I'm going to share it because it's too easy. So I was walking in. It's actually the same creek that you guys saw me going up with my bow alone with my Zodiac. Do you remember that scene in the video? I think it's in the new opener part of the video. Same place. You go up there from the ocean, and it opens up into this little estuary surrounded by freaking dark, creepy rainforest, right? And as well is right where I heard those real weird-ass sounds while I was making a video for you guys. Anyway, we get in there, and right smack dab in the middle of the estuary, right where we previously were digging clams, and you can see the older marks from where we disturbed the ground, is a stick sticking dead perfect 9 degrees straight up and down out of the ground in this estuary. And for me, I mean, I'm not paranoid, I'm not nervous, but once you have been forced to accept the fact that these beings and more are really, truly running around the forests and mountains of the world, you cannot ever not take note of abnormal sign ever again. And you cannot not look for it, even subconsciously. You're always on the look. You're on the look non-stop. Sarah and I are walking up there. I am scanning on both sides of the tight corridor into that big, thick jungle non-stop. You can't stop yourself. And every single one of you that's had these experiences knows exactly what I'm saying. We're all in the same club of no return. We're all at the same table. We've all been there. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm going up there, I'm not feeling any pressure at all, but I'm keeping an eye open. We're bent down trying to select the best size little butter clams we can find. And I'll admit, the whole time we're there, I'm thinking to myself, don't even bother looking around, because I don't want to see it. I don't want Sarah to see it. I don't want her to have that terror of seeing one of these beings with such a far ways to go to get back for her to feel safe again. It would just be too much. So I was arguing with myself whether or not I should be looking around or just keep looking down till we get the clams and oysters we want, and then just walk out and just mind my own business. But we walked in there, here's the stick jammed in the mud, and the stick is covered in barnacles from the top to the bottom. So that means obviously that thing's been laying in the tidal flats for a long time, laying submerged underwater. And there's some weeds hanging off of it, some eelgrass dried up, and what I'm saying is, you know, in case somebody might be thinking that stick was there the whole time when the tide rose up and caused the barnacles, well, the high water mark wasn't even halfway up that stick. So there you go. So took note of that. Videotaped it real quick for the hell of it, put a bucket by it for reference, no big deal, and then carried on our way. And then I couldn't help myself. I started doing big circles while Sarah was in the middle right there. I just sort of did circles around her. So I noticed some soft dirt off to the side. And then sure enough, here's a big indentation in the mud. And before you go laughing at my little sneakers, those are actually slip-on rubber shoes that grip your foot tight, and you can use those to get on shore on all the barnacle and seaweed and strewn shoreline of rocks and cling to it and get in there, and you can wear them underwater, no problem, right? So that's what we're wearing to get on shore and hike up the riverbed. Doesn't matter if you're in the water or not, you're not going to get your feet cut up. So we got those on, and my foot is a size 10.5. So there's the indentation, there's my foot, what you guys have probably asked for. Took a picture. There you go. Take from it what you will or leave it. That's what happened. That's where I'm reporting, and that's all I can say about it. Is exactly what I saw. And that's what I shared with you guys. What do I think put that stick there? I haven't a clue. Do I think it was a human being? My gut says no. It's my guts talking. There's another one. It's written before. Hey Steve, I've written you before on my first Sasquatch encounter and another unbelievable scream we all heard in the Ocklawaha, Florida area. Ocklawaha. However, recently I learned that a sighting I had when I was young was more likely another encounter with one of the big hairy people. I'll explain. Excuse me. We moved to a little town in Vermont, Essex, JCT, just outside of Burlington, but basically out in the sticks, and our house backed up to a huge forest. Anyway, my age would be about 8 or 9 at the time, and occasionally I would wake up early now and then when my dad would flip on his electric razor. So I'd put my boots on, leash up the dog, go outside for him to do his business, and get the morning newspaper. This day it had snowed about 9 inches and had to push on the side door a bit. It flew open and out I went. The dog started barking like crazy, which he never did. And I looked up to see what the problem was, to see a tall, dark figure going through our garbage can. I remember saying, "Hi there," to the tall man. However, he just stood up, took one step, put one hand on the roof of my sister's Rambler, jumped over the car, and ran away. The whole thing was really strange because the dog barked at first, then tried to go back into the garage. He easily jumped over my sister's car. The guy was black from head to foot, plus what looked like long black hair. I really never saw any detail, just a dark profile of someone very tall and fast. It was still darkish and not quite dawn. I got the paper, went inside, told my dad about it. He kind of laughed and said it was probably a neighbor putting something in the garbage can. When he left work, I went outside with him and showed him where the guy put his hand and jumped over the Rambler. Funny thing was, my dad was studying the footprints around the garbage can. He asked me if I came out there barefoot, which I said no. Had these boots on. My dad just shook his head because you could see toes very easily. He looked at the car and the footprints leading away and said to leave things alone till he got home. Later on that night, my dad said the roof of the car was dented in slightly. I know he and the next door neighbor and wives were sitting at our table talking about the whole thing. They grilled me some more about what I saw, but it was still a tall man, all black and pretty fast. I couldn't tell clothes or anything. It was too dark out. They came to a conclusion that a man had escaped from a mental institution nearby 6 days earlier, and that it was more likely him. Anyway, I kind of forgot about all this till recently, as I read a few books by Christopher blank blank. Another blank I'm not going to promote. Near you, and I was curious and looked the man up on Facebook and wrote him a note. Started chatting and find out he lived outside of Riz. Okay, maybe go, this day I've never seen, okay, all right, so what that last paragraph is this guy wrote in, lives near somebody who's in the Bigfoot community, all right? And this person assured him that there is Sasquatch in the area. And no, I'm not gonna promote that little prick. If I ever seen him in public, I'd probably knock him on his ass. So, all due to owing him a few, by the way, in case you're curious. Thanks for sending that in, man. And if you come across any knowledge at all that you think that people will benefit from, you make sure you get it into me, all right? And not from that little twerp that you mentioned. Now, what else we got? Here's another one. Hopefully I haven't read this, but I moved everything out that says read into the other folder. It's titled Oregon Bigfoot. Steve, first off, my wife and I really had no... getting back to the previous email. Obviously, my brain's racing on a million subjects as I read, and I'm getting a little far ahead of myself. The garbage can thing, the garbage can mention, that's been mentioned how many times? How many times has people seen these beings going through garbage? How many times? From big waste bins to just your regular trash can behind the back porch, right? Why? Why is that? Why are they that hungry, that desperate? Did they just get here? Did they possibly just get here and haven't found all the natural food sources yet? Possibly. Maybe. I don't know. Do you? Right? Now, Oregon Bigfoot. Steve, first off, my wife and I really had no knowledge of Bigfoot until recently. We always thought it was just a fun myth with beef jerky commercials, bad horror movies, etc. This all changed a while back. We had a situation on a small farm outside of La Grande, Oregon recently. I don't see any actual creatures or living beings, but extremely large human-like tracks to not make themselves. Also, a fairly substantial rock thrown that barely missed me, didn't just fly on its own. Excuse me, it's dustier than hell in here. The first encounter occurred in the very early morning when two of these creatures raided our chicken coop. A couple of sets of tracks led away from the barnyard, and I followed them out to the edge of a brushy creek, where I can hear some twigs snapping and barely getting hit by a rock that whizzed by my head. Okay, put up video links again. I don't have a clue who you are, and I can't promote you, okay? Videos about tracks. We've had no encounters since, so they videotaped the tracks. Let's see if I can get a still shot off that later and share it with you guys. We've had no encounters since, and to the best of our knowledge, no return visits by whatever or whomever created these trackways. Other than the videos, there's not much else to say. Our place is fairly secluded, about half a mile from the nearest neighbor. If we were being hoaxed, then someone would have to make quite the effort to sneak onto our place, plus be willing to get shot prancing around in the dark and destroying our chicken coop and running off with some hens. Since these incidents have occurred, we've researched Bigfoot high and low. Many of the online videos are obviously farces, but when we stumbled on your channel, it seems like you get it and just come out with the evidence, regardless of the naysayers and trolls. 8 foot hairy, 8 foot tall, hairy, ape-like creatures running around our place do concern us. And I'm glad that rock didn't hit me, but they seem to have moved on. I dare not go outside to do chores without my pistol strapped on, though. Anyway, I thought I'd bring this to your attention. It is what it is, and though I never saw the creatures, or may not really want to, the facts show that something out of the ordinary was lurking in our place, at our place, on our place at least 2 separate evenings. Thanks for reading. Okay, Tim, no problem, man. Thanks for sharing. And just so you understand, Tim, if I did promote or share any social media page on here without having a clue who it was, you do understand that you understand how many people out there just need followers. I just need followers. So bad. Somehow I gotta get followers. And if I started promoting people willy-nilly just like that, those people, which are probably in the tens and tens of thousands on the globe, will be writing in stupid shit-eating stories non-stop just to get that mention on here, okay? So don't feel insulted, don't feel betrayed or left out. That's why, okay? But I will hopefully remember to check out that video, and if it is substantial and that somebody needs to see, I'll take a screenshot of the prints, all right? And then I'll share it that way, okay? Please understand where I'm coming from. Again, there is over 8 million combined views on my 2 YouTube How to Hunt channels this past 28 days, and that's a lot of frickin' advertising for somebody who just might not have your better interest at mind to boot, right? Just think of all those Sasquatch expeditions I could be selling with that crowd. It'd be crazy, wouldn't it? I could charge people to camp out in my backyard and sneak out there in the middle of the night and drop a little random marble outside their tent and make them feel good about themselves. Yeah, somebody does that. All right, what do we got here? Possible Sasquatch activity in Georgia. Hey Steve, love the YouTube channel. Thank you for providing a sounding board for people to be able to tell their stories that otherwise remain unknown and untold. My name is Stephen Rains, and I'm 56 years old. I was born in Tennessee, and I live in Georgia, where I've spent most of my life. I've always loved the outdoors and being in the woods, either camping, hunting, fishing, or hiking. I'm a kind of a wanderer. It's hard for me to stay in one spot for long while in the woods. I always want to see what is over the next hill or around the next bend. One time, I was in the 3rd grade. I got the whole class to go exploring with me down an old railroad bed at recess. We're gone for an hour or more. Got in a lot of trouble for that one, LOL. Anyway, in 2005, I joined a hunting club in Polk County, Georgia. We had the lease to close to 600 acres of timber company land and lived just 6 miles from there. I work in construction. So during deer season, most of the time I would take a layoff so I could spend as much time as I could hunting, which was awesome. Our club had a primitive camping area that the members would all meet and peg in on a rudimentary map of the property so that everyone would know where everyone was at. One of our rules was that you had to peg in anytime you're on the property. We had about 12 members. There were only about 3 or 4 of us that were hardcore hunters and would be there every week. Most would only come every 2 weeks, just for the weekend. One day, I was walking on my stand down the logging road, and as I walked into a staging area for the loggers, I heard a whistle, then an answering whistle in the other direction. It was during rifle season, so I was wearing an orange vest, so I thought that possibly there were poachers on the property, and that they were warning each other that someone else was there. The reason I thought this is because I was the only member there. No one was pegged in anywhere on the map. Well, nobody's pegged in anywhere on the map. In 2007, I started hunting an area on the club that no one else hunted. It was during archery season. At the time, I didn't have a four-wheeler, so I had to hike in and was looking at about a mile hike to where I was going to hunt. I got to camp about an hour and a half before daylight. No one there and no one pegged in on the map. I got all my stuff together and started walking. As I came to the area where I'd heard whistles in the past, I heard 3 knocks. 3 knocks, then 3 more further along the logging road I was using to get to my hunting spot. I stopped dead in my tracks and listened and heard 3 more tree knocks, closer to the direction that I was going to. This totally freaked me out. And the first thing that I thought was, Sasquatch is around. As a kid, I grew up in a cult that had strict rules about not being able to have any friends outside the cult. I had siblings, but they were older and married and gone by the time I was 12 or 13 years old. So I spent a lot of time alone. That sucks. The forest was where I spent most of my time, plus I watched a lot of TV, mostly nature documentaries and shows about the paranormal. I heard on one of these paranormal shows about Bigfoot that tree knocks was possibly one of the ways that they communicate with each other. I'd go to the area that I had intended, but hunted closer to camp that day. In 2010, about a month before archery season opened, I went to the property to check on the condition of the food plots that we had planted a few weeks prior. One was in the area that no one else hunted and where I had heard the tree knocks. I had 3 ladder stands up, all in prime locations. As I was walking from one stand to another, I found an unusual animal skull that had been placed on the stump. It kind of surprised me when I saw it. There were no other bones or carcasses anywhere around, and it wasn't that old. I was just sitting there. I picked it up, looked at it, and put it back on the stump. I continued on to the next stand that I was checking on, and as I rounded a curve in the logging road, there was a wood teepee structure in the middle of the road. I stopped dead in my tracks, and all the hair on my body stood up. Now, this structure was not just a bunch of sticks leaned against each other. This was logs, at least 6 inches in diameter or larger. No way some kids did this. This thing was pretty big. It was at least 12 feet tall, and at its midpoint inside and very dry inside. After inspecting for a few minutes, I got the feeling of being watched. As I looked around, I noticed that there were no sounds of any kind. No birds, no squirrels, no bugs, nothing. Just dead silence. I continued on to check the stand, but couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time I hunted there from then on, it was always in the back of my mind that Sasquatch may be watching me. Hunted there for 2 more years without any other experiences out of the ordinary. The timber company started selling off the land in parcels, so I didn't rejoin the club. So there's my story. I just thought that I would share it with your viewers and that maybe it will help anyone that has had any similar experiences share their story. Thank you once again for giving people a chance to have their stories and experiences shared. God bless you and yours, and stay safe, brother, and good hunting. And all the same to you. Thanks for that email, man, and I hope it does help somebody down around you there, or help somebody go, aha, that's what I've been experiencing, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Okay, I'm not sure what this is about, but I'm going to read it. This is titled Gunter. And I'm starting to sweat up in here. It's hot outside. Steve, I listened with fascination to the writings of Gunter. I also twigged on the point about the giants' bodies reaching Earth intact. I suspect Gunter's onto something. Okay, that was the email where somebody said about they came down in an ice ball or something. I don't know. Excuse me. I also twigged on the point about the giants' bodies reaching the Earth intact. I suspect Gunter's onto something. The red-haired giants frozen in stasis in crystalline encasement may be of what he speaks. I recently discovered that pill-sized, rare earth magnets stick to my brow, sides of my upper nose, temples, and heart. It appears Gunter's statement about a license to run experiments on us is correct. My wife, 2 of my cousins, 2 of my grandkids, and 2 friends also can stick the magnets to these locations upon their bodies. That's pretty odd. Check yourself for curiosity's sake. Tell me if they stick, please. Because so far, everyone I tried, they stick. Maybe that the membership of the Club of No Return all have this ability. I don't know. Sounds new to me, this one. More will be revealed. The video I watched that caused me to want to check if magnets would stick to me. UAMNTV. This is why I have so many implants. This woman's story aligns with human experimentation, as does my own. I would humbly ask Gunter to let us have it. Both barrels, please. I'm so sick of all the lies. I've been living with some terrible truths all my life. I'm all grown up. I think I can handle it. The ones that can't will deny it, and all will grasp firm all the lies once more. Use my name, Steve. No problem. I'm all about the truth and facts. My name is Phil Hukin. I have seen Blemmies once and Sasquatch at least a half dozen times. I do not give a F who knows it. Please ask Gunter what he knows about what Thomas wrote of Jesus' words, Earth is a carcass. I suspect it means we are not unlike bacteria. I've seen a Sasquatch jump straight up. Let me read that one more time. I've seen a Sasquatch jump straight up 20 feet so fast it was a blur and disappear about the 20-foot mark. I thought I imagined it, but I did not. My mind struggles to rationalize the fantastic and then tries to suppress the memory. I defiantly refuse to suppress the truth. I've seen a Sasquatch rise from within the ground. I tried to reason that it was merely sitting up after napping in the long grass, yet there was no crushed area of grass. Therefore, that fantastic is true. I saw a tall, lanky, 12-foot plus young Sasquatch scout walking on 4s. His back was easily 7 feet off the road. He came very near to me, cloaked, and started to uncloak. I chambered around him at 30-06, and I was trying to gain a clearer view of what I'm seeing 6 feet from me. My rifle scope made a pop sound, and the ocular lens appeared to be obstructed with a solid block of ice. The partially cloaked individual then returned to invisible. I decided it was time to leave that spot. I joined my son, who was watching a nearby logged-off clearing. I stuck close by him the remainder of the hunt. My son and I both experienced a growling log while using a hunting stand. I thought maybe I was about to be a missing 411 case, not more than once. That is a brief summary of some of my experience. I've experienced Mind Speak, or SVP. Please ask the group No Return to check themselves with the magnets and report back to How to Hunt the Facts. Sincerely, Phil Hukin. P.S. F the libtards. Okay, Phil, I think you're the same fellow that emailed about the one by a bridge in the highway west of Prince George that had the different colored balls of light in front of his chest, right? I think. And I think I was trying to stop and see you, I think. And as usual, that shit just doesn't seem to work out for me. All right, let me read that, the magnet size again. I recently discovered that pill-sized rare earth magnets stick to my brow. Okay, man, so quick question. I don't know where But if you're listening to this one, you want to put it in the comment section below and tell everybody where or what is a pill-sized rare earth magnet, okay? And if that's what you want everybody to try to see if they are magnetic. That'd be interesting, I suppose, especially if people start saying shit, the shit's sticking to me, right? All right, here we go. Let's go one more, and then I'm going to get going, and I'm going to share a shitload tomorrow. And I'm going to pass on some kind of honest knowledge and facts to everybody and try to light a fire under their ass to start standing up for the neighbor instead of thinking, I'm okay. Who gives a shit? People are dying by the thousands, and that's a fact. Sorry. It's obviously that's a very prominent thought in my brain right now. Pure evil encounter of entity. Hello, Steve. You can share my name. My name is Sharon Whitston from Tennessee. I had a horrible experience, a pure evil entity that held me down. I was in my 30s, and I just experienced the first devastating loss of my dad's passing. We don't have a lot of work taking care of our 2 young daughters and household, plus the emotional strain of dealing with closing daddy's estate. I'm just explaining what's going on in our lives, but it did not happen due to me being overwhelmed and overworked. My husband Rob and myself went to bed, and honestly, I do not think I had even had enough time to fall asleep, plus I felt wide awake. I suddenly felt some presence being right above my chest area, and it felt as if the evil spirit was pushing into my body so I could not move. I felt sheer terror. The grip of this entity was massive feeling, and though I couldn't see or hear anything other than the 100% pure evil that held me down while I was paralyzed, I remember thinking, just scream, Sharon, but I couldn't move an inch of my body, not even my eyes, because I thought if I could just move or yell for Rob, he could help me. Boy, was I wrong. However, after trying to get the name Jesus out of my mouth for what felt like a long battle, just to take back my mind and mouth, it finally came out, woke my husband up, screaming, Jesus, help me. That exact instant, the force immediately let go and was gone. Here's the weirdest part, because it began to tell my husband what had just happened to me and how I only felt powerless to this being. I remember thinking, you are pure evil. And Rob said, well, I didn't want to tell you because I thought you would assume I was crazy. The exact same thing occurred to him a couple of nights before mine, and it too stopped immediately after saying, Jesus, help me. We both are very much believers and are not crazy like others would think or say we are. If there wasn't something to our separate experiences, then they should explain to me why that as soon as the name Jesus was spoken out of both our mouths, it instantly stopped. People must talk about these type of experiences, share and encourage one another, because we're in the most important battle of our existence today in the spiritual battles. I lost my best friend and husband on November 22, 2020 from a massive heart attack while in my arms. Sorry to hear that. My life has tragically changed, but I still know I'm blessed and highly favored. Thanks, Steve, for your helping God's kingdom and bringing awareness to this to the light. Sharon Whitson, sister in Jesus Christ from Tennessee. Sharon, appreciate your share. Although it's a little off topic, possibly, as we seem to be predominantly outdoors people running into these wild beings who are in our forests, right? I'm sure somebody else is going to probably have the same story though, right? The same experience, frustrating, nowhere to go, nowhere to talk about it, don't know what to do. All right, one more. Shave the shit off my face. Steve, check this shit out. Steve, I listened to your stuff for a couple years now. My name is Kent Allen Schultz. I sent an email back in June. I know you get a ton of them, but I figured I would give it another try. I currently live in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. Growing up, I was misdiagnosed 3 times and was forced into heavy and shitty meds from ages 7 into my 20s. That sucks. And is far too common of a story. My interest in the subject of Sasquatch was sadly a good chunk of the misdiagnosis. Apparently a young boy having an interest in Sasquatch and Ford trucks meant I was on the spectrum. Anywho, when I was in high school, a friend of my fraternal twin brother had drunken parties in the woods on his parents' land just outside of Topeka, Kansas. I was the only sober one there. I've never had a drop of alcohol in my life. One night we had just shown up to find a raging bonfire, loud music, loud drunken teens, and CS, drunk and firing a shotgun into a pond. My brother joined the bunch as I hung up by the woody wagon. Any animals at this point would have fled. I noticed a set of amber eyes about 8 feet up just inside the tree line. The eyes just stared. For over half an hour they didn't move. I was on high alert. Token plane. Told my brother I would pick him up in the morning, and I bounced. After the age of 26, I've been cleared of all diagnosis by 3 different psychiatrists and finally free from the poisons that were forced upon me. I'd sue their frickin' asses off, is what I'd do. If you can, do it. I began my rehabilitation of my senses and my surroundings. I've had hundreds of paranormal experiences, and 2 very demonic ones as well. I've never searched for any of it. I pick up on anything around me. In northwest Wisconsin, I got within 10 feet of a purple orb in the woods in the Blue Hills, where there have been Sasquatch sightings, as well as the head and neck of a deer where the neck was twisted several times, like wringing a towel. Just a neck and head. In 2011, I was attacked outside of my home by a drunken douchebag with a 9-iron golf club and took 10 shots to my head and right side of my face. Ouch. Before I was hit, I remember something out its hands on my shoulders to brace myself for the attack I didn't see coming. After I came to, I blocked one with my arm and the coward ran to the truck and sped off. Scan came up clean and my ear was put back together. I survived it. Holy shit. That would have sucked. Since then, I've seen 2 black and dark chocolate brown cougar, one in southwest Wisconsin in Crawford County and the other in Alamaki County, Iowa, both very large, full-grown cats which crossed a 2-lane county road in 2 bounds. I heard unmistakable Sasquatch vocalizations in a valley southeast of La Crosse, Wisconsin. Had many strange experiences in the section of the Mississippi River Valley in the same stretch as the conductor you read about for the BNSF Railroad. There are also many effigy burial mounds along that section of the Mississippi River Valley, which natives claim it's not their dead. They hurried, but things that they didn't want to come back and were too heavy to move. Search the documentary on YouTube called A Race of Giants, which mentions the giant skeletons found all over the US. Several of my paranormal experiences, and one of the demonic ones, there was non-verbal but very clear communication sent to my brain. I might not have seen a Sasquatch in any plain view, but I've known of their existence since I was young and have experienced non-verbal communication to my mind in the woods and wood-on-wood echoing knocks. Anything I pay attention to around me comes in crystal clear. I'll listen to what my guardians tell me, the ones who helped me through the vicious attack in 2011. Recently, I've had clear nonverbal messages sent to my brain by a presence that I understand clear as a bell by something paranormal. The adventure continues. I believe the Nephilim theory very much. It makes the most sense, and that some can be influenced by demons. Why not? Other beings can, so why not that descendants of fallen angels? In closing, F the government. They care nothing for any real folk. F any judgmental cowards who just spit on people while they do nothing but eat, drink, and sleep social media. Nobody should be allowed to lead the free world if they were born into riches. Steve, you're doing the right thing, brother, and shit. I would have your back anytime. I'm 6'3", 310, and built like a semi, but with shit. But with shit right. Okay, let me read that one more time. I'm 6'3", 310 pounds, and built like a semi, but would shit right in my pants if I ever came across a Sasquatch. Sincerely, Kent Allen Schultz from Minnesota. Kent, thanks, my man. Appreciate you. Appreciate your share, especially naming off the locations so that people around those areas might be curious enough to ask around, or maybe they have confirmation that that shit's going on, right? They've already experienced it. You never know. But either way. All right. I think that should suffice for now. So many. Gosh, so many. Oh, I'm smoking hot. I'm super freaking tired. I'm gonna catch up with some sleep possibly. I got shit I gotta do though. And then I'm gonna get out a handful more voices being heard non-stop before I go away again. And soon I'm digging out all my hunting gear. I'm gonna go up north and check on all those cameras that I laid down in the spring when I went by myself last time. And that's going to be really interesting for me, especially where the grizzly cameras I put out. I can't wait to see what's on those. That's going to be really creepy and interesting. And of course, I'm going to share it all with you guys. Oh, one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share. I'm going to share a few stories I heard this weekend, first-hand accounts from the ocean nearby that I think everybody should hear. Creepier than shit. And I'll explain to you exactly what we as well did this weekend, which prompted the conversations we had with the old dogs at the dock. And I'll save those stories for the other channel, the How to Hunt channel, because that channel I've made to be predominantly only hunting and fishing related content, all right? Since this topic of Sasquatch and other topics have successfully hijacked my original channel, which is this one. So if you want to hear those stories, if I remember, I'll click the link in the description below on this channel, or else just go to the other How to Hunt channel, check it out, and it'll be there, right? And I will be back tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have some kind of a handy rant, some knowledge to be shared, and most importantly, new voices to be heard.